Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be speaking about the 4 most common problems that recreational players face when learning the modern forehand. Now, learning the modern forehand in tennis is very challenging. If you don't receive coaching, it could seem like there are so many components to think about all the time to try and master that it becomes a very overwhelming task. So guys, in this video I'm going to go through some of the key fundamental aspects of the forehand and the most common mistake that I see recreational players make on this modern forehand, and I'm sure that you guys may be making one of these mistakes, so make sure that you stick around until the end of the video so that you know what all 4 mistakes are and how you can prevent them to improve your forehand. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the unit turn. Now, I'm sure you've heard so many people, including myself, talk about the unit turn on and on again, and telling beginner players to initiate their stroke with the unit turn. Initiating the unit turn is generally a problem and an issue for more beginner players. However, players that have been playing for a few years and have developed to a good club level, for example, will often have a nice unit turn. However, it's really common to see these recreational players to start watching the professionals, Alcaraz or Nadal or Djokovic, for example. Their unit turn is a lot greater than a recreational player's unit turn needs to be. What I'm referring to here is that they keep their non-dominant hand on the throat of their racket past the midline of their body here. And the reason why high-level players do this is to really get a nice coil in their upper body and uncoil all of their energy and power into the forehand. However, for a recreational player, this technique might not be appropriate. And I often see recreational players that try to initiate this big unit turn, that when they uncoil out of it, they end up hitting that ball late because they're not quick enough with their racket, and their kind of anticipation skills and receiving skills aren't as good as high level players, and therefore they time that ball a little bit late here and end up shanking the ball and hitting the ball with their dominant shoulder behind their non-dominant shoulder, and that's not a good position to be in because you'll be very cramped and you won't be able to hit a lot of power on that ball. So instead, if you're a rec player, try not to have a really big unit turn with that coil. Try and think about your unit turn. That non-dominant hand doesn't go past that midline of the body. So about here is when you take that racket off and start to swing forward. This type of unit turn will be really effective and efficient for you because it allows you to get that coil with your upper body, but not too much of a coil. Therefore, this type of technique will help with the timing of your swing and also making sure you're contacting the ball with that dominant shoulder in front of the non-dominant shoulder, because this is crucial for power production. And guys, moving on to the second most common problem I see among recreational players on the modern forehand is the wrist lag. Every forehand should have a wrist lag of some sort. If you play with a continental grip, you're going to have a little bit of a wrist lag here as you drop the racket and as you come forward into contact. However, nowadays, with players using more of the semi-western and the western grip, the back of the takeback looks like this. So their strings are pointing down, and it's quite an extreme lag here going into the shot. In addition, from that position, it's like they're flipping their racket here to create that motion that they need to get into the wrist lag position. However, with high level players and pro players, they do this all very naturally. So it's very common to see players like maybe yourself try to replicate this wrist lag position, and it's very, very clear to see when someone's replicating or trying or forcing to get into the wrist lag position, because it makes the swing look a bit jerky and forced. So the wrist lag happens naturally if you are coming out of your unit turn correctly, because essentially getting into the wrist lag position is, from the unit turn, you let gravity drop the racket down, and there you are in that wrist lag position to strike forward. Try and let the wrist lag be as natural and smooth as possible, and try not to think about it at all, guys. The third most common problem that I see on the modern forehand for recreational players is not using your kinetic chain, and instead only using your arm to hit the ball. You want to think of your forehand as a whole body shot instead of an arm shot. And this is quite hard for beginners and recreational players to understand because the swing looks like just an arm shot. You're moving your arm like this. You should think of the stroke as a coil and an uncoil with all of your body instead of a arm movement like this. And now this might take time to develop, and I suggest you guys to go out there and shadow swing like I'm doing here. So I'm in my ready position, I unit turn, and as I turn, my feet are turning, my shoulders are turning. So from here, I drop down and then fire from the hip as you come into the forward swing of the motion. All of the pros, when they're hitting their forehand, you will see using their whole body and using their core to rotate out of the shot. This gives them so much more power. And so guys, the last most common problem that I see on the modern forehand for recreational players is flicking the wrist at contact. And so good players, high level players and professional players, at the moment of contact, the wrist is passive. When players are hitting more of a flatter shot, they will lead more with the tip of the racket forward and up. When they're hitting more of a topspin shot, they will come up the ball more, and you'll see more of the strings throughout the shot like this. If the top players were using their wrist on the shot, it would look something like this. It would look like a flick of the wrist, and their follow through would kind of stop here out in front of them and just down low like this. It wouldn't be how we see all the players finish, which is up and around the shoulder or around the body, something like this. And so it's really common to see some recreational players use this flick of the wrist because they think that's how the top players are generating topspin or power, by flicking the wrist through the ball like this. But over time, if you carry on doing this, you're gonna have an injury, and you're also leaving so much power on the table, because you see how small your wrist is here. If you're only generating power or topspin from this, then you're leaving so much on the table. And you could be loading into the shot using your momentum, as I said in the tip before, using your whole kinetic chain to uncoil through the shot. And this will produce you so much more power and such a higher quality shot. Again guys, like I said with the wrist lag tip, on this tip, try not to think about what your wrist is doing. In any stroke in tennis, don't think about what your wrist is doing. Think about the key fundamental aspects of the stroke. So getting into the unit turn, dropping the racket low, and trying to find the contact point a little bit in front of your body and following through. And this will ensure that you're not forcing the wrist lag or actively using the wrist in the stroke. Instead, if you want a smooth and efficient stroke, you need to have a passive wrist in your forehand. And these tips will really help you. So guys, if you found this video helpful, then please give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more videos like this one to come. And guys, I'll see you in my next video.